The day everything started felt ordinary, almost boring, and that's probably why it caught me so off guard. I had just pulled into my driveway after work, the same cracked concrete I'd parked on for years, when I noticed a bright orange notice taped right to my front door. It flapped in the breeze like it owned the place. At first I thought it was some kind of neighborhood flyer, or maybe another reminder about trash bins. But the moment I stepped closer and saw the HOA logo stamped at the top, my stomach tightened. The notice said my home had been officially labeled a safety risk. Those words stared back at me in bold letters as if my house had suddenly become dangerous overnight. According to the HOA, there were serious structural and safety concerns that needed immediate attention. No explanation beyond that, no photos, no prior warning. Just a deadline and a threat of fines if I didn't comply. I stood there for a long moment, reading it again and again, trying to make sense of it. This was the same house I'd lived in for over a decade. The same house that had passed every city inspection when I bought it. The same house where my kids learned to ride their bikes in the driveway and where neighbors had complimented me on how well kept it looked. And now, suddenly, it was a hazard. That night I barely slept. My mind kept racing through worst-case scenarios. What if they forced me to make expensive repairs I couldn't afford? What if they escalated this into something bigger? I'd heard stories about HOAs overstepping, but I always told myself that would never happen to me. I followed the rules, I paid my dues on time. I kept my yard clean. I stayed out of drama. The next morning, I called the HOA office as soon as they opened. After being transferred 3 times, I finally got someone on the line who spoke in that calm, detached tone that makes you feel small. She told me the notice was based on a recent compliance review. When I asked what exactly was unsafe, she vaguely mentioned my front steps and the exterior siding. I asked when anyone had inspected my property. There was a pause. Then she said inspections didn't always require homeowner presence. That's when the first spark of anger hit. Someone had apparently decided my home was unsafe without even talking to me, without knocking on my door, without giving me a chance to explain or fix anything. I asked for documentation, photos, anything concrete. She told me I could submit a written request and wait for a response. Wait, while fines loomed over my head over the next few days. I started paying closer attention to the neighborhood. I noticed something strange. Other homes with peeling paint, broken railings, even cracked walkways seemed untouched. No orange notices, no warnings, just my house. The more I looked, the more it felt targeted, and that feeling stuck with me. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I walked around my property with my phone, taking photos and videos of everything they claimed was unsafe. My front steps were solid. The railing was secure. The siding had some cosmetic wear, sure, but nothing structural. Nothing that would justify labeling my home a safety risk. I sent the photos to the HOA along with a formal email asking for clarification. Days passed with no response. Meanwhile, another letter arrived, this one more aggressive. It warned of escalating fines and possible further action if I didn't address the violations immediately. No new details. Just pressure. That's when fear started creeping in. I'd worked too hard for this house to lose it over vague accusations. Late at night, I found myself scrolling through forums, reading horror stories from other homeowners. Stories where HOAs pushed people into financial ruin over minor issues. Stories where homeowners felt powerless, but mixed in with that fear was something else. Determination. I wasn't going to let this slide. If the HOA wanted to play hardball, I needed facts on my side. So I called the city's building department and asked about inspections. I explained the situation and asked if there had been any official city reports labeling my home unsafe. The woman on the phone checked their system and told me there were no such records. None. According to the city, my home was in good standing. That single phone call changed everything. If the city hadn't flagged my house, then the HOA's claim felt even more questionable. I asked the city employee what my options were. She suggested that if there was a dispute over safety, A city inspector could conduct an independent inspection. The idea stuck in my head like a lifeline. An official, neutral inspection. Someone with actual authority. Someone who couldn't be swayed by HOA politics. I requested a city inspection that same day. While waiting, the HOA pressure continued. Emails, letters, warnings that sounded increasingly threatening. Each one made my pulse spike, but I held on to the knowledge that the city was coming. I just had to hang on. The day of the inspection arrived quietly. No sirens, no announcements. Just a city vehicle pulling up in front of my house mid-morning. The inspector stepped out, clipboard in hand, and introduced himself, calm, professional, no drama as he walked around my property. Checking the steps, the siding, the foundation, I followed a few feet behind, answering his questions. He tested the railing. He looked closely at areas the HOA had complained about. And with each step, I felt a growing sense of relief. At one point, he turned to me and said something that made my heart pound. He asked, "Who told you this place was unsafe?" I told him the HOA. He nodded slowly, made a note on his clipboard, and continued the inspection. That moment right there was when I knew something big was about to happen. Something the HOA hadn't planned for. Something that could change the entire situation. And as the inspector finished his walkthrough and started writing up his report, I realized this wasn't just about my house anymore. This was about power, control, and what happens when someone finally pushes back. After the shocking declaration from the HOA labeling my home as a safety risk, my initial reaction was sheer disbelief. How could a neighborhood association wield such power, threatening my home status without a thorough inspection? The letters, the notices, and the subtle threats all made me question the fairness and legality of their actions. But deep down, I knew that fighting back wasn't just about my property, it was about standing up for truth, justice, and the right to live without intimidation. I immediately began to gather evidence. Photographs of my property maintenance, records, and previous inspections became my arsenal. Every little detail mattered. The condition of my roof, the stability of my deck, the age and quality of my siding. Even the garden paths and minor repairs were documented meticulously. It might have seemed obsessive, but in a battle against an HOA, documentation is power. Without proof, your voice can be easily drowned by their administrative authority. As the tension grew, neighbors began to notice the HOA's relentless pursuit. Rumors circulated and whispers of similar incidents emerged. It became clear that this wasn't an isolated event. The OA had a history of targeting homes using technicalities to maintain a stranglehold over the neighborhood. This realization sparked a new determination. I wasn't just defending my property, I was shining a light on a pattern of abuse that affected many families. Amidst this turmoil, an unexpected development occurred. The city inspector announced an unscheduled visit. I had no idea they were coming, which initially caused a surge of panic. Had I overlooked something? Was there a legitimate issue that even I hadn't noticed? But instead of succumbing to fear, I quickly prepared my home, making minor touch-ups and ensuring every document was readily accessible. The inspector's visit was an opportunity to validate my claims and counter the HOA's accusations. When the inspector arrived, their presence immediately shifted the dynamic. Unlike the HOA, this was a professional with no vested interest, trained to evaluate safety objectively. They inspected every corner of my property, from the foundation to the attic. The tension was palpable. Every creaking floorboard, every slightly uneven step seemed amplified under scrutiny. Yet, as the inspection progressed, it became evident that my home was structurally sound, well-maintained, and perfectly safe. The which had been so confident in their accusations, suddenly found themselves without leverage. The inspector's report highlighted minor maintenance suggestions, nothing that remotely justified labeling my home as a safety risk. This was a pivotal moment. The authority of a city inspector far outweighed the HOA's claims, and their objective evaluation provided undeniable proof that I had been unjustly targeted. But the story didn't end with the inspector's visit. The HOA had to react, and their response was telling. They tried to discredit the inspector, questioning credentials and methodology. However, with the official report in hand, their arguments fell flat. My community, which had been quietly observing, began to see the truth. Support poured in from neighbors who recognized the unfair treatment and appreciated the transparency brought by an unbiased, professional. In parallel, I realized the power of sharing my experience publicly. Documenting the journey letters, reports, and personal reflections became more than a personal fight. It was a resource for others facing similar harassment. Many homeowners encounter overreaching HOA actions but lack the knowledge to defend themselves. By openly narrating my experience, I provided a blueprint. Document everything, seek unbiased inspections, and never let intimidation silence you. This situation also underscored the importance of legal awareness. Knowing my rights as a homeowner was critical. HOA policies are complex, often buried in extensive documentation. Without understanding these rules, one might unknowingly violate them and provide the HOA with ammunition. Consulting a legal expert early on helped me interpret the AS notices accurately and determine which claims were baseless. Knowledge became a shield, protecting me from unnecessary stress and potential financial repercussions. As weeks passed, the tension gradually shifted from fear to empowerment. The inspector's official clearance report, paired with my meticulously maintained records, allowed me to confront the HOA confidently. I requested a formal acknowledgement that the safety risk label was erroneous, demanding that they retract any public statements or notices that had implied danger or negligence. The HOA, now facing irrefutable evidence and community attention, had no choice but to comply. This experience also taught me the value of community solidarity. Neighbors who had once been passive observers stepped forward, sharing their own HOA grievances and supporting my case. Collective awareness creates accountability, ensuring that powerful associations cannot operate unchecked. In retrospect, this journey highlighted the delicate balance between community management and personal rights. While HOAs exist to maintain neighborhood standards, unchecked authority can easily morph into harassment, emphasizing the need for transparency, oversight, and professional evaluation. By the time the dust settled, I had transformed from a homeowner under threat to an advocate for fairness and accountability. The unexpected city inspector's visit was not just a turning point. It was a testament to the importance of professional oversight, meticulous preparation, and unwavering persistence. This episode reinforced that even in the face of institutional intimidation, knowledge, evidence, and community support can triumph. In conclusion, my encounter with the HOA was more than a personal story. It became a lesson for all homeowners. Never underestimate the power of preparation, legal understanding, and unbiased evaluation. Document your property, seek professional inspections, and don't allow fear to silence you. The combination of these strategies ensures that even the most aggressive HOA tactics can be countered effectively. Following the city inspector's report that cleared my home of any safety risks, I realized that my battle with the HOA was far from over. The report was a powerful tool, but the next step was ensuring accountability. The HOA's initial actions had caused stress, fear, and unnecessary disruption, not just for me, but for many neighbors who had quietly suffered under similar intimidation. I knew that simply proving my home was safe was not enough. I had to stand up and advocate for transparency and fairness. I began by organizing a community meeting. Invitations were sent to neighbors, emphasizing the importance of understanding their rights and recognizing signs of HOA overreach. The meeting space was filled with residents who had experienced fines, arbitrary rules, or threats to their homes. The energy in the room was a mix of curiosity, frustration, and hope. Many had never realized how much control the HOA could exert, and now they could see that collective knowledge and preparation could level the playing field. During the meeting, I shared my complete journey, the letters, threats, documentation, and the inspector's findings. I also highlighted critical lessons: never ignore HOA notices, always keep detailed records, and seek professional evaluations when claims seem exaggerated or unjust. Neighbors asked questions, shared their experiences, and expressed relief that they were not alone. By turning a personal ordeal into a community awareness session, I empowered others to protect their homes proactively. At the same time, I reached out to legal counsel specializing in property law. Together, we drafted a formal letter to the HOA, demanding a public acknowledgement that their safety risk label was erroneous and harmful. The letter cited the city inspector's report, highlighted my meticulous records, and emphasized the HOA's responsibility to act fairly and within legal boundaries. This step was crucial. It sent a message that homeowners would not tolerate intimidation and would use every available resource to defend their rights. The HOA initially attempted to dismiss the concerns and downplay the inspector's findings. However, with the weight of evidence, community support, and potential legal consequences, they had no choice but to retract their statements. A formal notice was issued confirming that my home was safe and that the prior labeling was unjustified. This moment was not only a personal victory but also a warning to the HOA and similar associations that abuse of power would not go unchecked. One unexpected yet rewarding outcome was the strengthened sense of community. Neighbors who had once been hesitant to speak out began sharing their stories, organizing collective meetings and creating a support network for addressing HOA-related issues. This newfound solidarity turned fear into empowerment. Families felt safer, more informed, and prepared to challenge arbitrary or threatening HOA actions in the future. The experience demonstrated that knowledge and unity are as powerful as legal authority when it comes to protecting property and rights. I also realized the importance of public education. By documenting my story online, sharing it on social media, and contributing to homeowner forums, I reached an audience far beyond my neighborhood. Many homeowners in other cities, states, and even countries related to the ordeal. Comments poured in from people who had faced similar intimidation, asking for advice and guidance. The story became a resource, a case study, and a warning. Always know your rights, document thoroughly, and seek professional oversight. Through this process, I became more aware of the psychological impact of HOA overreach. The constant fear of fines, legal threats, and arbitrary labeling can take a serious toll on mental health. The stress, anxiety, and sleepless nights are all too common among homeowners living under aggressive HOA policies. Sharing my story and standing up not only resolved my personal issue, but also highlighted the importance of emotional resilience, preparedness, and community support. Reflecting on the journey, I realized that one unanticipated inspector visit changed everything. It was a reminder that unbiased, professional intervention can pierce through administrative intimidation. It also reinforced that persistence, meticulous documentation, and assertive communication are critical tools when dealing with powerful organizations. I had turned a potentially devastating situation into a lesson in advocacy, preparation, and the importance of knowing your rights. The story does not end with my personal victory. The ripple effect continues. Neighbors now understand how to approach HOA disputes. Community meetings are more proactive, and collective awareness has increased. The HOA, now aware that residents are informed and vigilant, must operate with greater transparency and fairness. This experience has become a blueprint for others. Prepare, document, involve professionals, and engage the community for anyone facing similar challenges. The takeaways are clear. Never ignore official HOA notices or letters. Keep detailed records of your property and maintenance activities. Seek professional inspections if the HOA claims seem unfounded. Understand your legal rights and consult a lawyer when necessary. Build a network of supportive neighbors who share experiences and strategies. Share knowledge publicly to help others and create accountability. Ultimately, this story is about more than a single home. It's about standing up to unfair authority, protecting your family and property, and fostering an empowered community. My personal fight became a catalyst for neighborhood change, demonstrating that one person's determination can influence many lives positively. As we conclude this part of the series, remember that facing intimidation, threats, or arbitrary rules from an HOA can feel overwhelming. But with preparation, community engagement, professional evaluation, and clear legal understanding, homeowners can navigate these challenges successfully. The journey may be stressful, but it can also become a source of empowerment, education, and lasting community improvement.